Someone just came to the door. Morning, everyone. I'll be right back.
That is perfect timing.
Hello,
That's amazing.
everyone. It's a special guest for OotiniCast. Who could it be?
What are you going to do? Let's see. Let me go ahead. Well, we got a moment. I'm going to get my chair close to the mic. Gaming distance is not the same as podcasting distance. I think that's
Maybe
a little
get
better.
a light on the door that just says on air.
Test. Yeah, that'll be good. Do I sound okay to you guys, Sotarista?
Sound good to me.
Okay, good. I am fighting a bit of a cold or something, so my voice might be a little funky. In fact, I can sense a little bit of it. It was worse earlier. Oh. That was perfect timing by Tio, though, man. The instant he hits the button to go live.
I mean, it's better it happens now versus 5 minutes in when the intro's playing.
Yep. That is very true. Alright, what else here?
For those of you just hanging out and waiting for the show to start, if you have a Reddit account, you should log into said Reddit account and go to the Sator subreddit, because there's a very special not safe for work post that you can only see if you are logged in, and it is a game glitch. It is very hilarious.
Oh, a game glitch that's...
Yes, it involves no pants. Definitely not safe for the show, though.
That's funny.
Alright, sorry about that.
I'm not sure if I have a Reddit thing, I don't even remember what it is. It's not, I can't go to Reddit.
Why can't you go to Reddit?
I enjoy my life without it, so.
Oh, I see. Oh, it's not that bad.
No, nothing against Reddit exactly, it's just, yeah. The few times I've been there, it's like, gosh, this is so not my place.
Alright, yeah, so it was a very important delivery. It was 12 bottles of wine, so...
What you up to?
Oh no, just, stocking up, as you do.
Chateau Chunda?
It's a nice Sauv Blanc. When it's on special, gotta make sure we're well supplied. So, the good quality stuff, obviously.
Good.
Yeah. Alright, I assume you've said hello to everyone, episode 245, etc. We'll do the proper intro in a second. I will tweet out via OotiniCast. Are we all good to go? Everyone is recording. Chill, you are recording. The other guys
I
are.
am.
Yep.
Chateau Chunda. Alright.
It's the Australian table wine sketch.
Ah.
As you
Nothing
can
wrong with
imagine.
Australian wine. I prefer New Zealand personally, but whatever.
Right. As you imagine, though, Monty Python were not kind.
No. Better than that French stuff. For the moment. Alright, let's do this.
Alright. Oh, and happy Australia Day.
Oh, yeah.
If you're into
Invasion
that
Day,
thing.
as it's known.
Yes.
Yeah. They probably should move the day, because it's a bit unfortunate.
Unfortunate for what?
The Aboriginals. Because that was the day that the first fleet turned up and set up the Australian settlement, which
Right. Which makes sense why they would choose that day for Australia Day as well.
Yeah, they should probably do it when Australia federated and became its own nation, free from Mother England, which
Good
was
choice.
the 1st of January, which is a bit awkward. But that would actually be Australia Day.
That's not bad. The only problem is that, who'd be up for celebrating it.
Exactly. Not that we really celebrate Australia Day beyond having barbecues, but that's what we do.
That's what Canada Day is,
Not
too.
bad.
Barbecue and fireworks, excuse to have the day off.
And there's apparently cockroach races here in...
That's right. You did a picture of it or something.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Anyway, this is all by the by.
Excuse me.
Swotor. Alright, Jill, when you're ready.
Alright. Wow, that cough really pegged the Audacity. Alright, going in 5. Hi, and welcome to the OotiniCast, the podcast that should have double-checked the Western reaches. This is episode 245, being recorded on Wednesday, January 27th, 2016. I'm your host, Chill, with our producer and co-host, Tio. Hi, Tio.
Hey, guys.
And our guests today are Blay and Swotorista. Swotorista, how you been? What you been up to?
I've been great. I've been up to a lot. I took a bit of a hiatus from the game. I'd kind of lost interest and some life things moved me away from having a computer. But once I started getting back into things, and it got really fun. The biggest thing I've been into recently is because there's no new story content not until February rolls around, I've picked up the crafting department for my guild. And we have all kinds of projects that we're working on. We are unlocking our flagship. And one of the fun things that my division commander ran was commander runs, where you just get a really big group and go to the different planets. It's like a huge scavenger hunt just to find them in the first place. Have you guys ever done those before?
Yes. Not for a while, but yeah, it is fun.
And we found that our conquestors weren't really getting a lot of love. Like, we have a lot of stuff for our PvEers and our PvPers, but people who just like kind of solo conquesting didn't have a lot of rewards going on for them, especially because the in-game rewards are kind of weak compared to the amount of work you have to put into it. So we looked into our prize bank and looked into what kind of awards we could give on the forums. So now everyone in our guild who does conquest has a chance of winning like a really sweet prize from our prize vault and get some like awards on their forums. It's nice to be able to give something more than what BioWare gives, which is pretty paltry.
Cool.
And we'll be speaking more about raiding later in the show, but in our guild we've been just farming hard mode over and over, the highlighted hard mode, just so we can get the gear for nightmare mode. It's just not, the groups are really fun, but just the content is so stale. It's one of the reasons I left in the first place. And I'm looking forward to do the nightmare mode stuff that I never got to do even before 4.0, but getting there in the first place, since you can only do the highlighted hard mode to really get any gear for it, is just so rough. Is that what you guys have been up to too for raiding wise?
More or less, although the last couple of weeks we've even kind of backed off of that, so it's been a little rough keeping everyone sort of on track for this sort of thing.
Yeah,
so we definitely hear you when you're talking about the same, feeling like it's the same content. So.
And chances are our group is not going to get together until there's a new operation at this point.
Yeah, I can see that. The story mode teams have been really fun, though, because of the new movie and just because of renewed uptake in SATOR, because the expansion. We got quite a few new people, like really new people, or people who'd only ever done the very first operation in the game. And getting them into it is really cool, because they're really, like, interested in finding out about it, but you can't. It's very difficult to get into pugs sometimes. You guys know all about that.
Yep.
And it's fun because you can use all the old trolls on new people. Yes. Bridge boss. And I have this quest for pets that I started quite a while ago. I had a goal of getting all the pets I could actually get in game, not the ones from like the cards and stuff. And I hadn't gotten a new one since July 2015 because I'd gotten every single one that I could, and I finally got that Rakghoul pet. I never have to grind the Rakghoul event ever again.
Nice. I like pets too, although I'm apparently not enough of a collector to actually do much of the work.
Yeah, I'm only missing like a couple now. I need two of the Rakghoul ones. There's a really, really, really rare one from Eyeless. I think it only drops in hard mode, but I've only ever seen it drop like once, period. Haven't gotten one myself.
Yeah, there's only so much you can do with that RNG stuff.
Well, the last thing I did recently, one of the reasons I took a break, was because about 4 years ago, I met someone in my guild that I really clicked well with, and we've been back and forth to visit each other, and recently I said to him, if we're not going to live together, we are Dunskies, and he said, let's get together and see how it goes. So I came to visit him in the States, and I was living with him for about 2 months, and I said, you want to get married? Let's get married. So that's what I did
popped
this
the question.
weekend.
Yeah.
It's kind of awkwardly mutual because of all the paperwork we have to do.
Oh, right.
There was we kind of agreed together, and then he asked me, well, did you want a proposal? And I was like, yes, I want the romantic part of it. I actually did on New Year's. So it's just
congratulations.
Really, thank you. It's really
cool.
cool.
Way to go.
Especially since SATOR is how we met. We had another friend of ours invite us to his vow renewal with his wife, and he sent us some T-shirts. One of them was Princess Leia, and it said, I love you, and the other one was Han Solo that said, I know.
Aww.
Awesome.
So cool.
Are you going to end
Yeah.
up in the States or Canada, or where are you going to end up?
Probably. I'm hoping. It's really complicated. Anyone who's met someone special in Sator and wants to do the long distance thing, if you don't live in the same country, just break it off now. Don't do it. It's ridiculous. I don't even know. They want to keep all the random people who don't belong in the country out, but it's like 7 or 8 months before I can become even a permanent resident.
Wow. So do as you say, not as you do, huh?
Yes.
Well, that's great. That's a good story too. It's gonna be that's gonna be fun. Whereabouts in the States? Just
We
curious.
live in California.
Hey, okay, yep. I'm no longer in California, but I was born there, so yep. Excellent. All right. Anything else? How are you doing anything with your site still, or has there just been too much going on?
I've been writing. Well, I lost a lot of interest as soon as I finished the storyline in the game for Coffee, and I kind of stopped writing. Every once in a while, I'll post an article up, but I just don't have the interest. Been focusing on my guild, where at least the community talks back, versus
Yeah.
BioWare, which doesn't.
All right. Well, yeah. Congratulations again. And Blay, how about you? What you been up to?
I've been raiding. I've been bringing in as many sort of new people into raiding as I possibly could. Sort of just getting there, pick up a group. On Tuesday night, ended up with a group of people who I was the only level 65 in the entire group. 3 people had never done it before. Some people didn't understand anything about lockouts, so as a result we had the 7-man, the first couple of bosses. And yeah, just having a lot of fun, finding new people, raiding with them, trying to teach them a little bit about the mechanics of the actual fights.
Right.
Some just still don't understand Scylla. They just don't understand the floor's going to fall away, no matter how many times you tell them. So you still lose half the group. Plus, then within my own guild, managed to get a group going for the first time for a long time. So we did a bit of a social raid, got some people involved. Again, someone who had never raided before came along, joined us. We given the nice role of tanking, because that's a perfect role to give someone who's never raided before.
Yeah.
When you
What could go
bring
wrong there?
When you bring
Well-
new people along, do you find that they're willing to listen in chat or in voice, or do you find they're just kind of like la 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 off in their own world?
Well, when it's within your own guild and you actually got voice comms, it's alright,
Yeah.
because you can talk to them and you don't have to just give them all of the instructions at the start of the fight. You can talk to them as you go along and just tell them, okay, coming up now, watch out for this bit, don't forget to move back. You don't really get a chance to do that when you're doing it with pegs and it's all just typing in chat, because especially considering that I'm almost never a DPS in these groups, I'm either healing or I'm
Right.
tanking. So when I'm tanking, I haven't really got time to start typing, oh, by the way, guys, everyone quickly run back over to the end part so that you don't fall down. Because by the time I'd done that, I might have lost aggro. Although the group I was in on Tuesday night, I just wasn't going to lose aggro no matter what I did. I could have just stood there for about 3 minutes when I would go a coffee, come back, and I still would have been holding aggro. But it was enjoyable. It was quite good, to try and just teach these people the simple mechanics, sort of build them up. So my plan within my guild now is I'll probably do another one next Friday. A couple of people signed up for that, and just build them up to doing harder and harder content. I think it'd be a while before we take on the Ender Lurker, seeing as some of them have only just done EV and KP.
Ooh,
A bit of a
that's
step
yeah.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, Underlurker's a big jump.
Maybe in 3 weeks' time. Let's see how hard I can push them.
Wow.
Very nice.
It'd be great. It'd be great just to try and get them through TFB.
That's a very
Absolutely.
cool one to see for your first
Yeah.
time too.
Yep, Scum and Villainy is fun too. I mean, there's so many good ones, so it's always nice to. It is nice to see someone new go through that sort of thing.
And in Scum and Villainy, make sure you get them to jump into the Sarlacc pit for
Yes,
obviously the
get
achievement.
that achievement and that title. Yeah.
Oh, the Yeah, we've done that to pretty much everyone. We managed to get one person to jump in backwards because we told him he was bugged, and sometimes you got to jump in backwards.
And spoiler for everyone who doesn't actually know what we're talking about, you do not get the achievement for jumping into the Sarlacc pit inside Scum and Villainy. You have to do it on the one on Tatooine, but it's still funny.
Yeah, the other one that we tend to do in Scum and Villainy is towards the end. You just get the biggest vehicle you can, and you just stop at certain points on the bridge. And then just see who doesn't know.
Oh, the holes.
Oh, the holes?
Yeah, bridge boss.
Oh, so you actually cover them up.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's clever. Yeah, alright. Genius.
Yeah.
Yep.
We've had some raiders who do stuff like that, so
Yes.
I know
Yes,
what
we
you're
do.
talking about.
So,
Now you also-
Go
ahead.
Beyond the raiding, it's been into the I finished the Rackles Tunnel, went in there, did some achievements, ended up trying to kill about 3,000 of absolutely anything that stood,
Wow.
just to try and get the eradication. And the only reason why I ended up doing that was so I'd have an achievement that had the date of last week's podcast.
Ah,
So
Nice.
So it became easier for me to actually build the succinct achievement, which I created and posted onto Twitter last week.
yeah,
And
I
I'll just
love that
include a
one.
link to that in our chat, and I'll post that in the show notes for this show. It's very cool. Very nice work, mate.
Yeah, I had to basically go through all of my achievements, trying to find certain words. Like
Right.
there's one achievement that says the beast of something. So I used the last 3 letters of beast for the last 3 letters of OotiniCast.
And it is the Run Jawa Run achievement. Completed the OotiniCast show operation on Nightmare mode in less than 2 hours. And the rewards, the legacy title is the Succinct Jawa. And you also get an item, a mount, which is a dewback with racing stripes. Beautiful work, mate.
That was very funny.
Well, I'm still cursing you for the title. There is no title in the game that you can get that starts off with a capital J.
Ah, well.
Oh.
Do you have to scale it up and just post it in?
No. It's actually the wrong scale on the one I've done. Because I couldn't scale it down.
Ah,
Huh. Well, it looks really good, so.
yeah.
You said it, I remember you also tweeted it just took you an inordinate amount of time.
Yeah.
You were not willing to,
that
yeah, you were not willing to share how long it took.
yeah.
That's okay, though. It's still funny. Well done. All right. Tio, how about your week?
Well, since we aren't raiding, what I did actually spend some time doing was heroics. I decided that I'd just go to that terminal in Odessen for your one's respective faction. This is on my Sork, who's doing the Alliance stuff. And I just marched through heroics. So I did all of them on Tatooine, Alderaan, Hoth, and Nar Shaddaa. They've got plenty each of those planets. And it turned out there's a few I hadn't done. There was a particularly awesome one on Alderaan. I probably have mainly done them from the Republic side.
Okay.
Some sort of water processing plant, and there's a central column with all this water. It's amazing.
Oh, I love that one. It's a very cool environment. It's right outside the dam where you can use the gun.
Well, I just teleported there, so I got no idea where it actually was. But that aspect of it is fantastic. I just found that when you've got a little bit of time to play here and there, just dropping in, doing heroics, you get the crates, 1 crate per heroic. And it doesn't take too much time. You can just march through them. I'm getting achievements because I haven't actually done all of these before. So my current plan is to do all of them on all the planets over the next week or two. And then, on subsequent runs through, I will just pick the ones that are not in the open world, because those are annoying if there's other players trying to do them.
They are.
Right.
But quite a few of them are instanced, and so they're no problem at all. So yeah, it was a lot of fun, particularly
There's
on the
also
Sork.
there's a list out there. If you Google Sutter Fastest Heroics 4.0 or something similar to that, and you can just do them in order of fastest if you don't have a lot of time at all or don't care about seeing
Yes.
ones you haven't seen before.
Right. Well, some are more fun as well, even if they take a bit longer. So I'll probably make my own personal list of what I prefer, but yeah, I might use that as a basis, yeah.
I don't remember the name, but there's one on Hoth that you can literally do in like 30 to 40 seconds.
Yeah.
You click on 3 bodies. Yeah, you click on 3 bodies, you make the item, you run over, you click on another item, and you're done. If you avoid the fighting, which is pretty easy to do, you're done in definitely less than a minute.
And as Farseer said, it is a great way to make credits, and also getting those boxes. You need those to unlock the various heroic star fortresses, which was my initial motivation, but I may as well just keep going. Why not? Why not? And the other thing I discovered... Oh, sorry, Blake.
So there is an achievement as well for doing every single heroic. So it's worth doing just for the achievement, and I think there's a title involved.
Cool.
Hope there's a title.
Some sort of
That is a lot of
motivation,
heroics.
surely. Now, the other thing I discovered was I logged into Otini Knights, our guild on the Republic side, on my old main, Tio the Jedi Sentinel. Because he's a guild master, he's the one who can actually change what the various ranks in our guild can do, because I wanted to ensure our officers can change the message of the day. And I discovered that Tio, my Sentinel, wasn't the guild master anymore. I thought, what the hell? He was the next rank down. So I realised that what had kicked in was if you hadn't logged into your character for, I think it's a month or 2 months, and you were the guild master, it automatically passes to someone else. So I thought, oh god. But it's the next rank down, and the way I've set it up is I've got my guild master, because you only have the one. The rest of my alts are all the next rank down, which are guild master alt.
Your alts, yes.
So it was on one of them, but you can't actually tell. You actually have to log into each one until you find the one that actually got it, who then becomes guild master. Yeah. So, and then switching it back to TO was easy enough. It ended up on my commando, oddly enough, even though it was my guardian. I've actually been playing more recently, so there's a warning for you. If you're playing on alts, just make sure you get onto your guildmaster character if you happen to be the guildmaster of a guild. Otherwise, bad things can happen.
Who knows who it could go to?
We have that ping pong going on in our old guild back on the server we moved from. So every once in a while I'll log in just to see out of curiosity who happened to have gotten it just from logging in to check something.
We make our own mini-games. And Palais says Galactic Hero is, or at least was, the legacy title for doing all the heroics. So who knows, they may have updated it for Cotfee, but probably not. Anyway, that's my week. Over to you, Chill.
All right, first a shout out to the chat room. Let me get this updated. All right, at least 31973, Blaze here, Brad77, Captain and GM, Castaneda 8390, Darth Brundlefly, Dekion, Dispel53, DreadX, Drumaz, Farseer, Fionha, Gahana, Galen, Noblesse, Gonk, I'm a Power Droid, Hellgrind82, that still makes me laugh, Enixis, Jockins, MagV3, Mark _Swotor, Morlin, Norwich Hybrid, Nascla Banus, Palais, Pew 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 Empire, Sertano, Sith Kitty, Swotorista is here, Thunder Lily, Tickleberg, Trig PT, and Zamzam are all here. Hello, everyone. Wow. All right. Got a few sessions in this week. It's starting to feel a little better to play. As the weeks wear on, it's starting to feel a little bit more normal to be in the game, which is nice. And this week I mostly did heroics on my Chill Hulk character, so the She-Hulk who has been endgame, level 65 for some time. Not too much to report. It was fun. And then you'll have to excuse me. Yesterday I was not able to play because I am working on some sort of cold or something, so I just spent the whole evening just trying to make sure I could go to work today. It seems to have lodged in my vocal cords, unfortunately, a little bit, so if I sound like I have vocal fry or, something else, then you'll have to excuse me. All right, but during the week, right after the last episode, in fact, I did email to Eric Musco. This is basically a promise I made to the chat room and followed up on it with the email. I'll read my outgoing and also his incoming. Not a ton of information here, but a couple little interesting details. I wrote to Eric, "We've been wondering how the replacement of the operations design manager who moved out some weeks ago is going. Has there been a replacement, or is the search ongoing? Or will those duties be folded into one or more other people's positions?" Eric wrote back, Thank you for reaching out. I totally understand where this question is coming from based on the current concerns about the future of operations content. I know we haven't given any updates yet, but that development isn't tied to just one person, and as soon as we have more information to release, we absolutely will do so. That being said, it is company policy that I am unable to comment on any staffing-related questions.
I had a long back and forth with Sir Salisbury on this particular topic, and my point of view is this pretty much tells us absolutely nothing about the future of operations in the game.
Is carefully worded,
really
yes.
means nothing. So
it seems so, like, I can understand why they can't talk about who got hired, who got fired, but it seems really strange that they can't say, yes, we are going to have someone dedicated to operations, or we are going to start looking, or... Right. No, we've shunted it over to another team. It just, I don't know, it just doesn't bode well. Or he's being too careful, I'm not sure.
Right, exactly. It's tricky when someone like me emails him. He knows that whatever he answers is going to, be very publicly announced. So, So take it for, for what you want. It doesn't sound like they have an operations lead manager. I mean, I don't know why he would keep that secret if they did have one, so I'm kind of thinking they don't, but I don't know what the plan is. There's so little information that I can't tell if they're just going to do it with the whole team, or eventually find one or whatever. It does sound like that. If they are working on operations, they're not necessarily just waiting for a lead designer to be in on it. So.
We've got to be ready for the possibility there will be no new operations. This is what Bill said ages ago, as Sith Kitty reminds us. But I still have hope that they will add operation content. I don't know if they will have a nightmare mode. I don't know if it'll be really, really challenging, as in progression, hardcore progression. But I still think they're going to be doing operations.
I have no hope that it's going to be any time this year. If they do decide to, it's going to be a year from now or more. By then it's too late for me.
I did actually email Eric yesterday, again, just asking, is there anything that we can tell the community about this? Even if you can't give us any dates, can you at least give us a tiny bit of hope? And he said, nope. He has nothing to reveal at this time, but stay tuned.
Ouch. Okay. Yeah. All right. Well, there we go. So we've read it out for what it's worth, and I do thank for Eric for getting back to me so quickly.
Yeah, he's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. In fact, I mean, it was like literally within hours, I think. All right, that'll bring us to the tip of the week. We've got 5 tips this week. I'll go ahead and read the first one. First one from Johnny, who is also known as Born to Eat Bacon. If leveling a tune with intentions of running it through Kotfi, it is a good idea to expend your companion gifts on a companion you won't lose. So if you raise influence with Nico or Treek, you will hit Kotfi with a capable crafting sidekick right out of the gate.
Right. Yeah.
In other words, Nico
idea.
or Treek, because they don't go away, they're permanent and they're on every character, and they don't go away because you hit Kotfi story.
Same with HK 51 if you happen to have obtained him at some point.
Yes.
All right. Next is a tip from Tiadra. This is Tiadra bringing you some more tips of the week. This has to do with something that was discussed in last week's podcast, where it was mentioned that the attempt in Eternity Vault hard mode failed on the first boss because of the Enrage. I did want to point out that Eternity Vault and a large portion of Karaga's Palace, with the possible exception of the droid boss, can be solo tanked with 5 DPS and 2 healers to make the DPS checks a lot easier. You can solo tank the droid boss in Karaga's Palace hard mode, but it is more difficult and might require a DPS that can taunt to help the tank deal with the stacking debuff.
Right.
Right, yep. But I just don't see the point of solo tanking it and making life that much harder on the healers. Because yeah, he does hit hard when you get too many stacks, from what I recall. Also, on the first boss in Eternity Vault on hard mode, if you are losing people, it is quite possible that they are forgetting to move their feet when he's doing the red circle AoE. The tank can also help mitigate damage during certain points of the fight when he is shooting missiles by using their group taunt. For power techs and vanguards and jugs, this provides a shield, and for sins and shadows, it provides a small heal to the entire group if they are in range, if you actually spec into that utility, because from memory you actually need that to actually get that effect, but for tanks it's pretty much mandatory. I know I certainly had it on my Guardian. It's not a lot, but if you are struggling with keeping up with the healing, it might be enough to help the healers catch up. I certainly used that in Underlurker, for example, during the phase where he's doing his scream thing. Yeah, good advice.
Right. Yep. Third tip from Strika of the Red Eclipse. My tip is regarding building your companion reputation. If you are a PvPer, then you should complete the quest, The Forgotten Trophy, which will get you either Major Pierce or M14X, depending on pub or imp. By recruiting this companion, you will get 500 rep points for every PvP match you win, or 250 for a loss. An easier way to get a companion to level 50 affection without having to do anything extra than you normally would when PvPing. I believe this is the only companion that has this type of mechanic for earning rep points. My M14X is currently level 48 just by PvPing.
Jeez, that's amazing. How cool is that?
Cool.
I know you had to win or play at least 20 matches or less than that because you get one counts for two if they're wins to actually get those companions. Though if your Valor level something or other reasonably high, you will just get them automatically. So
are you supposed to keep the mission open the whole time and then turn it in when you've got just massive amounts?
As far as this goes, apparently not. It's unclear.
The rep just keeps coming, huh?
Let's try it, because I'm actually at the point where I can pick up Major Pierce, so I'll try that on my Sork.
Cool.
Alright, our fourth tip is from Elian D of the Epic Guild on the Shadowlands. This may be known, but here goes. I noticed when shift-clicking on items to check their price in the GTN, sometimes the search button would grey out, even if there were more than 3 characters in the search box. Today I noticed what I think is a reason for this. It may be a bug, and it may not be 100% correct, but I've tested it on several items, and it seems to work. Disclaimer over. If you have an item that has a 2-letter word in it, its name, such as Relic of, the word of will make the search button grey out. So rather than deleting a bunch of words at the end and having to sift through a bunch of items, or rather than going through the tedious drop-down menus, simply delete the word of, or other 2-letter word or symbol, etc. from your item's name. The search button will usually light up after you've done this. Hope this helps. So yeah, we know they changed it a while ago to make search more efficient. It would not allow you to have any word less than 3 characters. So it has to be 3 or more. Of course, if you're going to implement this properly, when you shift-click an item to put the text of its name into the search field, it should automatically remove any words that would break the search.
That would be nice.
Yeah, I mean, that's just what you should do.
Or allow the search to go through if certain words are present, like of.
Yeah.
Either way would be nice, but it's
Automatically
just probably
filter
not
them.
worth the time.
True. Actually, if you set up the search so it just takes out any short words, it just ignores them. You can do that too. That would work. Why not? Anyway, that's a good tip since it doesn't work like that.
Okay. And going back to the last one, Tukikan is saying that they still get rep even after you finish the mission. So
thank you, Sir Salisbury.
Yep. And fifth tip from Ewan of Jedi Covenant. I thought this is common knowledge until I read general chat this week, and there was a lot of misinformation, at least on Jedi Covenant. When trying to build rep for week-long events, keep running the quest even after you hit the weekly cap. You can save the items used you can save the items and use them on the following weeks. The event doesn't have to be running to use the rep items. If you have enough alts, you can get enough items to max out your rep from 1 week of questing. It takes 5 weeks of using enough items to hit the max.
Indeed. And speaking of Max of the SWTOR Escape podcast actually had a really cool spreadsheet that would actually allow you to plug in and work out exactly how many items you actually needed and how long it would take in the subsequent weeks following the event to actually use up all the items, and the most efficient way of spending them, the green, blue and purple versions, to make sure that it reduce the time. It's very cool.
The only thing this tip doesn't address is that to run it all in 1 week to make sure you have enough to last for the next 5 weeks, you may go insane. So be careful.
Excellent point. Yes. As Blade did, I believe, when running the Grey event.
Yes.
You lose your mind, presumably.
Yeah. Although, another tip that you could add to that is that one of the things to do is have a character that's in a different guild that's got a different rep bonus. Because what I found was I could basically optimize the maximum number of points I could gain in a week by having one that had less than 10%. So what I would do is I would use some of the values that gave me less than 10%, so I got more of them in, so I got closer to the max amount before I actually hit or used one of the large rep items.
Right, a nice purple item or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah. So
That's what we call micro optimizing, and probably, I don't know, is that really worth the effort? I mean, you're right, but
Well, I managed to get up to max on I think it's the Bounty Hunter. Or, yeah, the Bounty Hunter event when it first came out, using just 2 weeks. So I've only done it twice and I got to max.
that's impressive. How many characters was that on?
Oh, a lot. A lot.
Clearly.
we were, there was a group of us just going in, just absolutely smashing it
Right.
several times a day, switch characters, smash it again.
Okay.
I question your sanity sometimes, Blair.
Thank you.
Well, that's why he's a guest.
Indeed.
All right, by random allotment, the winner is Tidra. Congratulations, you're the winner of an M8 3R or Tonfon pet code, courtesy of BioWare, and a new OotiniCast provided cartel market pack from the latest shipment. And if you'd like a chance to win the same, please send your tips to OotiniCast@gmail.com by next Tuesday. And that will bring us to the Hollow feed. Tio?
There is actually plenty to talk about. In fact, so much that I'm going to have to defer some of it until next week, believe it or not. When it rains, it pours, or so it seems. So, firstly, there was, during Tuesday's maintenance window, some server-side back-end maintenance. They didn't tell us what they did, but it did not require a client patch. Just the servers were down a couple of hours, and it was done. No change to the game, obviously. No new content until Game Update 4.1, which is coming on the 9th of February, and yeah, obviously Chapter 10 comes with that, unless you subscribe after February 1st, in which case you will be penalised by 2 days and not get it until the 11th of February. Anyway, moving on. We had some news about the armour that you get on the Insta-60s. Insta-60 characters of the various classes. They have class-specific gear, which actually everyone kind of liked the look of, particularly since it was bind on Legacy. So what people were doing, and we've actually had tips about this in the past, was creating a Insta-60 using their Insta-60 token, stripping its gear, putting it in their Legacy bank, then deleting the character, getting their token back, rinsing and repeating so they can get themselves sets of the various looks that they liked. And you can do this ad infinitum, or at least you could. Starting in Game Update 4.1 in 2 weeks. You will no longer be able to do that because the gear will become bind on pickup. However, they know that the whole point people were doing this was that they like the gear, and so they're actually going to make the gear available in various places. I will include the list in our show notes. There is a post about it as well. For example, the Sith Warrior gear will be in Alliance or an Alliance supply crate. Jedi Knight also an Alliance supply crate. The Jedi Consular is going to be crafted, grade 8 stuff. They didn't say how much they're going to cost, so they're not going to be free, but they're going to be, I suspect, relatively easy to get hold of.
I saw a really amusing comment about this. They're changing this so that they don't affect the metrics. Obviously, right now, people are creating classes over and over just to get the legacy gear and deleting them. It doesn't mean that's what people are actually creating. But there's still people creating characters so they can get that special Mandalore statue of community crates.
Oh, wow. Yes.
Like that huge long stream that I did to get mine.
Mm-hmm.
But at least you can do that on level 1. With the Insta-60, I suspect, and the reason they said they're doing this, is it has a negative impact on the data side, which basically means you're clogging up your database with all this stuff, which when you delete the character, it doesn't purge it, because as people know, if you ask really nicely, BioWare can, in some cases, restore a deleted character. So it doesn't get purged, so it's still in there. And with a level 60, an Insta-60, you're going to have a whole lot of baggage in terms of data that would be stored alongside it. Probably a lot more than they would have for a level 1. So this is where it's a real problem, just less of a problem for level 1. But anyway, that's the story. So even if you don't do this, don't do the Insta-60, delete, get the gear, etc., you will be able to still get those looks come Game Update 4.1. You'll just have to spend something for them, basically. or craft them.
I read the Alliance supply crate as meaning the things that you get from the heroics. And the stuff
That
you
would
get
make
from the
sense.
heroics is basically
Yep.
random drop. So, yes, it's there, but you're
But
going to
not
have to do
guaranteed.
a lot of them in order to get the gear.
That's a point. Oh well, reason to run the content, why not? So anyway, so if you really want the look, better get it now. You got 2 weeks.
Right, and also put it on the character that you want to put it on, because they will become bound, so you can't just hide them in your banking, your bank somewhere.
Yes.
2 weeks
correct.
to screw up the metrics. Go.
All right, next we have you could say the conclusion to the story of Nightmare Lootgate. Now, as we all know, the problem here was in the Nightmare mode, or the various operations that have Nightmare, you would only get 224 rating gear. There was only a chance of it, as opposed to your highlighted hard mode, which was guaranteed to drop 224 off every boss. So just a regular
Right.
hard mode, just one of them, was the highlighted one every week, would drop 224 for sure, and that just changed week to week. But Nightmare mode, there was only a chance. And in fact, they told us that was kind of broken, and the chance is really low. So pretty much no one was getting 224 out of Nightmare at all. So they told us the initial plan was in 4.1. They would change it so that you would be guaranteed to get one off 224 gear off the final boss, and you would have a chance on the other bosses in the Nightmare mode operations. But now they have said that, well, we actually do listen to the community, and every boss in Nightmare mode will drop 224 in Game Update 4.2. In 4.1, it's what the initial plan was. They said they would have done it in 4.1, the final version, but they just didn't have time. So anyway, in summary, in Game Update 4.1, the final boss in Nightmare will definitely drop 224, and you've got a chance, presumably non-zero, of getting 224 off the other bosses. Come Game Update 4.2, which will be Chapter 11, every boss will drop 224. And they did actually say the reason that it was like this in the first place, in terms of just having a probability of dropping 224, was they didn't want people to gear up with 224 too quickly. And I believe that's pretty much what we speculated back when we first heard this.
Right.
Because if you could get 224 off every boss in Nightmare, a progression group could just run all the Nightmares and just get all the 224 gear in probably a week or two, and they're done. It was a kind of way of gating it. Now they realise, well, at this point, anyone who's seriously running operations on hard mode has already got all their 224 from the highlighted hard mode every week. So, yeah, I guess it's much of a muchness. So, well, probably should have been like this in the first place, but at least they're finally changing it. Any comments?
That's my comments. I don't want to talk about this.
Yeah, well,
I'm,
it's a
yeah,
sore spot.
I guess we can hope that it helped keep some of the harder core people around a little bit longer,
I hope
but
so.
what are you gonna do? I did like how they actually spelled out why it wasn't all being done at once. They actually gave, the reason.
Yeah,
that they're
I'm very
still
cool for
developing.
that. I don't mind if something isn't done tomorrow, as long as I know why it's not being done tomorrow, what else is being done tomorrow.
Yep.
More info you can give me to tell me what's going on and what I should be expecting and looking forward to, the awesomer, the happier I am.
I agree.
Agreed. All right, next, let's talk about what's changing in the cartel market with their packs. As we know, they got rid of the bronze, silver, gold, and then they turned up again for a week, and then they disappeared again for a week, or then they disappeared again.
Right.
And things were happening, and it was really cool. We now know what they're going to be doing. So, firstly, the bronze, silver, gold packs are not coming back. Looks like they are gone forever.
Okay.
So those were the grand packs. So
I like
at
those. They were so fun. I could,
Indeed.
like, if I was on a stronghold kick, I could get the decoration one without worrying about getting more clothes I don't need.
Exactly. So remember the way it worked was there were different grand packs for the different categories of things you get out of the cartel packs, like speeders, decos, armor, whatever. So you could just get the particular pack that you wanted. Gold would only have gold rarity items, and gold, silver, bronze referred to the rarity. Silver could have mostly silver, but a chance of gold, and bronze would have mostly bronze, chance of gold, chance of silver items in it of the various categories. So that was cool, but we're not going to do that anymore. So at the moment, in a regular Cartel Market pack, you will get 2 items, such as mounts, decorations, whatever, from the current range of items associated with that pack, and they're new for every pack. You would get a rank 5 or 6 companion gift, and you would get 1 bit of scrap, which you could then accumulate and then purchase other things with it. Now, they're changing it. In Game Update 4.1, the new pack, called the Anarchist Pack, obviously associated with Anarchy in Paradise, which is Chapter 10, you still get the companion gift, you still get the scrap, you still get 2 items. Now, this is where it gets a bit different, shall we say.
Right.
Firstly, there is no more bronze rarity of item. The only rarities that we have are silver and gold for items in this new thing. At the bronze level, you've got the chance of getting what they're calling a Grand Chance Cube. So this is like a pack within a pack. So when you get an Anarchist pack, you will get 2 items. Each has a chance of being a gold or silver item, or a Grand Chance Cube. Now, a Grand Chance Cube is effectively like a super grand pack. It's when you open it up, it has a chance of being, well, anything really. Any of the categories, any of the rarities. It could be something really, really rare. Or it might not, because when you imagine everything that's been in the Cartel Market to date, in this could come out of this Grand Chance Cube. That's a lot of things. A lot of things. So, however, the one good advantage of it is that just like with Grand Packs, if it's armor, for example, in a set, you get the entire box with the entire set. You don't just get a piece of it.
Nice.
So that's cool. But each Grand Chance Cube, just 1 item, could be anything.
Wow.
And the question I have, which I have asked Eric, and they'll probably post this on the forums, was if there's 2 items, do you have a guaranteed chance of at least getting 1 silver or gold? Could they both be? Could it be 2 Grand Chance Cubes?
Just infinite Grand Chance Cube.
That would be terrible, because they're at the bronze level of rarity, which means that that's the one you're more likely to get than anything else. Yeah, now in terms of what is in the Grand Chance Cubes, as I said, literally anything. It's unclear whether there's now an even chance of getting every item, regardless of its previous rarity, or if you've still got a really small chance of getting gold items compared to, say, silver and bronze from your Grand Chance Cube. So yeah, this is probably, I'm not explaining it in a particularly clear way because, well, we're really just trying to understand it. It's just posted today.
Long story short, when you buy a new pack, you have a chance of getting an item from an old pack.
Yeah.
Right,
Which-
and I'm assuming these will not be bound. That you can actually probably buy these on the GTN eventually.
It's
the
exactly.
cubes.
Ah,
Yeah,
the
maybe.
cubes. Good point.
The cubes.
Don't know.
Yeah.
Why
I'm
not?
sure. It seems like they should be available, but
There's the obvious advantage of you open the pack, and that's always cool to see what's in there. But now if you get a cube, you've got to open up something else with another surprise. So
I feel
Granatoko
like
will be
for-
having fun.
I feel like this for a new player, they could care less. They're just like, oh, look, another thing I can open. Woo, this is so fun. I love opening these boxes and stuff comes out. But
Yep.
for an old player, as someone who's been here for the release of every single pack, I don't want old stuff when I buy the new stuff. When I buy the new Hyper Crate or whatever, it's because I Googled the name of the Hyper Crate after hearing it was going to come out. I looked at all the stuff and said, oh, all this new stuff looks pretty cool. I'll open up and see what I get. And if I wanted the old stuff, I'd probably go to the GTN.
Right.
The downside, obviously, is you've got if you actually want something specific, as you said, Sweaterista, you got to go somewhere else because the chance of getting anything you want from the previous thing is like effectively 0. We can pretty much say from the Grand Chance Cube.
Yeah.
It's just going to
From
be
a single
random,
one.
completely
Yes.
more for
random.
fun than for to get
Yeah.
a specific
Either
item.
you open one for fun, or you open like a bunch. Once you know like roughly how many you need to open to get something interesting.
Do you think they're trying to eliminate people trying to get specific items? So, for example, let's say you wanted Zozen's robes earlier. They're the white wrap ones that look really pretty and are super rare and super expensive on the GTN. Before, people could buy the gold tier armor packs and
Yes.
hope for it and buy a bunch and likely get one. So this way, there's literally no way, because they're not, the retired packs
Right.
aren't available anymore either, and neither are the gold, silver, bronze.
Exactly. This is literally the only way of getting any of that old stuff out of the
This
cartel
seems
market.
bad. I feel bad. Like, for me, I'm a hoarder, and I know that stuff. I know how BioWare has treated stuff, and they make it disappear without a way to get it back again. I just hoard it so I can use it later if I want it. But I know new players have literally no chance at getting these items, and it's not like you've earned them or anything, and it's not like they deserve to be 12 million credits other than looking really cool. But damn, there's a lot of really cool content from the cartel market, especially because personalizing your character is such an integral part of this game. People
So
really
is.
love their space Barbie. It's just, I don't know what the logic is for it. Like, it should be rare, but not that rare.
Alright, can I predict that in Game Update 4.2 they're going to be doing something completely different?
Oh yeah, for sure. Bring back gold, silver, bronze.
It's
I thought they were great. I hope they look at the numbers and say, yeah, okay, they made sense financial wise. That's the only reason I can imagine they change things, is because the money doesn't
Right.
add up, but
That's
I
right.
don't
if
know.
they associated the bronze, silver, gold grand packs with particular shipments and then cycled those, like change them every month. I mean, that'd be
Yeah,
cool.
I don't
like-
mind if they come and go. Like, I'd be okay if they were here for like a week out of the month. Like, they did that for a little bit, like a week or two ago. They were here for a bit, but only if I knew they were coming back again, because they keep saying, oh, they'll be here forever. Oh, they'll be here for a while. Bye. I don't know. I don't have any trust in what's going on with the cartel market right now.
At least they're experimenting. Alright, let's leave that. Sorry, Black.
So the problem I have with that update though is where they talk about that they're not going to be building any more bronze items. So considering the bronze items are the common, silver with the less common, and gold with the rare. Mathematically, how do you get 100%? Take out all the common stuff. You can't. You can't have a sort of a set where you've only got rare and very rare. There's got to be something in there to fill the other 100%. So mathematically, I don't understand how they plan on removing bronze items or common items. It doesn't make any sense.
No, it just means that the only items... Well, it means that you're gonna mostly get grand chance cubes, is what it means. And I mean, that's it. That's
From
simple as that.
what I'm taking with from it, I don't quite understand, but is that there will be likely a chance of you getting a grand chance cube and one other item, and that one other item will be a cooler one. And instead of making bronze items like they were making before, they'll make more cooler ones, which are the silver and the gold.
Yeah, pretty much. So, as you say, they're going to make those ones fancier somehow, or they're just going to
guarantee
recategorize
sure
all the
it
crap
has.
into gold and silver, regardless. I don't know. This is well, we'll find out, I guess. Yeah, personally, this is a massive disincentive. Not that I'm into the gambling boxes at all, anyway, but this has even less chance of actually getting you something that you actually want, unless you want something from the current tier of stuff in the packs, which is probably a reasonable thing. You've probably got... No, you've got pretty much exactly the same chance as you always had of getting that, so... Yeah. Maybe it means that they can create less stuff for the guild, because they had the gold and silver stuff, which was always there in a pack, those items of that rarity, and they had to pad it out with all this other stuff which was less desirable. Now they don't have to bother, they just put in the cubes.
Right.
So less work. Interesting. Alright. Next in the news, crafting changes. Yes, we have got the details. Now, Turg, our guildmate, summarised it for us. Here's what comes in every past expansion, but we're 3 months late. Our bad. Trade grade 8 stuff for grade 9 stuff for free. Which actually sums it up really, really succinctly. However, Sven, who's back to the game after 3 years and just maxed out his crew skills, but quickly ran out of reasons to craft, is looking very forward to this, because the actual changes themselves are kind of cool. So anyway, you could, as Turg suggests, argue that all of this should have probably been done with Game Update 4.0 and the release of Knights of the Fallen Empire, but better late than never, I mean,
I'm
some
totally
of the stuff.
okay with it being delayed because when Shadow of Revan first came out, there was all the crafting stuff that came out, and I made an absolute mint gathering materials and selling them to people. But all I can imagine is that there's all these people that are crafting because they know they have to do it now while the market's still fresh, and they must have not been enjoying the story and all the new content that had come out. Coffee was a bit different because there was so little, but I'm glad that crafting is delayed. It gives people like me a chance who like to really immerse themselves in the new content when it comes out to go and catch up with crafting when there's a lull.
Indeed. And I know I've got all my crafters I have to max out now that we can. So anyway, their actual strategy, or the reason they're doing this, we want crafting to remain an important alternative to mission and operation gear. With the release of 4.1, they're releasing an alternative to the Kotfi gear. This new tier of gear will be the best craftable gear that does not require exotic crafting materials, which you get from operations, etc. And to support this tier, we are introducing a new grade of crafting materials and missions. With this new change, we want crafting to remain an important alternative means to collecting the most powerful gear in the galaxy, etc. So, let's go through it. In summary, they're raising the crafting max from 500 as it is now to 550.
Right.
They're introducing a new grade of stuff. Currently it goes up to 8. They are adding grade 9, and with grade 9 comes crafting materials for all the professions. So new mats together. And they told us later that those will be in the public areas on Zakul, is where those nodes will be, which is kind of what we guessed. That's where you'll be able to pick them up from. There'll be new schematics, there'll be new missions for the mission skills, and obviously the new nodes to actually farm the new mats, which are honestly cool. Now, one cool change, color crystals. They've talked about this before. I believe they've mentioned that they're going to take the stat away, so you just used your color crystal to change the color of your lightsaber blade, and that's it. Didn't actually affect your stats, but looks like that was probably a bit too hard. So what they've done is that every color crystal is going to now be plus 41 to the various stats that they can offer, which is power, crit, expertise, and endurance. And there's no level restriction anymore. So the ones you can craft, you can use from level 1. Well, once you get your weapon anyway. So that's actually kind of cool. It's just, they've just basically baselined it, normalized it, so everyone, in theory, will have a plus 41 color crystal in their main hand and offhand.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool. I'm not going to go through this in too much detail, because there's a lot here. We'll probably touch on it again next week, especially when the actual patch notes become available. However, the important thing to note, because of the way this whole transition happened, they're going to make it as easy as possible. So a whole lot of things which used to require grade 8 materials that are available now, the current tier, will now require grade 9. And to make this easier, there's going to be a vendor on the fleet where you can actually trade any grade 8 material for the equivalent of grade 9 material at a 1-to-1 ratio. This is only there for a month until Game Update 4.2 in March. So you've got to have a month to actually switch over all your grade 8 stuff. So you could farm up all your grade 8 stuff that you want right now. As soon as Game Update 4.1 comes out on 9th of February, you could just go to this vendor and just exchange it all for grade 9. Don't have to farm anything. Obviously, you won't get any skill ups from that, but I don't think that'll be particularly hard to get to 550 from 500. You can also buy the grade 9 stuff from the Jawa scrap vendors. So if you've been hanging on to your Jawa scrap, it's now worth more, I guess, because you can get the grade 9 stuff. You can now... Alright, now as far as the gear that you can craft, all existing 208 rating gear, which is currently blue, has been increased to artifact purple quality, which has the interesting effect that if you don't have that particular unlock, if you're premium or free to play, you can no longer wear the crafted gear.
Oh no!
Interesting.
Do you think they will fix that, or is that like, screw you?
There is some items, like from the cartel market that are purple, that you can wear regardless. Could they do that for this as well? It's kind of odd choice.
Horrible.
Yeah.
I don't think they will. It doesn't sound like they will.
You can just get that account-wide unlock for like 2,300 cartel coins.
2,700. I looked it up the other
2,700.
day.
Right. Okay, so those items are becoming 212, that they are now purple. And the 212, 216, 220, 216 and 220 rating items do still require the stuff from Operations or Conquest, will require grade 9 materials.
Okay.
And they're messing it around with it a fair amount, but that's pretty much the gist of it. Now, augments. No new augments in 4.1. However, the 200 rating 200 and 208 rating augments will now require, will be now made by grade 9 schematics and require grade 9 materials. But all your MK8s that are currently on your gear will be automatically upgraded to MK9s, so you don't have to do a damn thing, it'll just auto-switch. And there will be a vendor where you can exchange your MK8 kits for MK9 kits.
Ooh, yeah.
I suspect
wanna
that one
do
will
that
probably
for sure.
go away as well. So again, no one loses anything from this. You'll effectively, everything will just be uplifted. And so it's just a way of, again, this probably should have all been done with 4.0, but this is a way kind of painlessly catching us up. So that's the gist of it. Now there are a few specific changes. Everyone getting new grade 9 stuff is what it boils down to. Artifice, obviously, they've done some of the fancy stuff with the color crystals. They're now rating 136, which is a plus 41 bonus, and that across the board.
Okay.
Blue, red, yellow, green, and orange crystals and schematics have been removed from vendors. Instead, you can train them at the various grades. So 1 is blue, 2 is red, 3 is yellow, 4 is green, and 5 is orange. Why not? I guess. They felt low-level crystals no longer had a purpose in the game, and as such, they removed them. So that's kind of what they're arguing. I like it. It just means that, of course, it means if you purchase one off the cartel market, such as I did, my mint green plus 41 power, which I have in my collections and I give to all my characters, well, there's not much point to it anymore, because anyone just craft a plus 41.
Yeah, but you don't get the pretty sparkly color that you wanted.
Indeed. Now, yeah. Alright, 212 relics can now be crafted by Artifice, and because this is, kind of competes with what's in Operations, they're going to boost the stats of the relics you get from Operations. But it doesn't mean you can now craft some decent relics, which is a bit of a hole. Now, an interesting one that Blay had was querying was that they are adding a grade 9 accuracy stim, which replaces, so instead of an accuracy adrenal. So, yeah. And Blay, you're wondering what the hell?
So basically, by putting it or taking it from an adrenal and putting it as a stim, effectively, I'm assuming it's going to be an 8-hour boost, same as what we've got for all our current adrenals. You can't have 2 stims running at the same time. So you can have a choice of the current mastery stim running, or this new stim, which is going to be accuracy and crit. Considering that whenever I did a raid previously, I was never asked, have you brought any accuracy adrenals with you? It was always, have you got the attack, healing, or if you're tanking the tank adrenals. I've never actually created a biochem character that crafted the accuracy adrenal, and at the moment I can't really see who's going to be crafting and using the accuracy / crit stims.
So my only thought on this was it's effectively for healers who want a DPS. That was the only thing I could think of. So their gear,
That's pretty handy.
You can it's a way of adding accuracy, so it won't bring you to 100%, but it'll get you a reasonable way there, so you would be more effective than you would be without it, pretty much. You'd have to run the numbers to see if it's better than just boosting yourself with mastery, but
right.
Maybe it is, because a healer obviously will have 0 accuracy on their gear. So that's the only reason, Blay, I can think of, because otherwise it's a little strange.
Can you imagine if the stim gave you 100% accuracy?
That would be very cool, actually.
It might be, yeah.
Which means it probably won't.
Yeah.
And they've said
I'm more likely to just have an offhand that's got some accuracy in it, and just switch in an offhand or a pair of boots, and just increase my accuracy that way.
Does one pair of boots or an offhand make up enough?
Well, not to get you up to 100, no, but you'd only want to increase your stat a little bit if you were going to go in as a healer and need to do a little bit of DPS. Because effectively, your role is still primarily you're a healer.
Alright, and finally, all existing shield and absorb adrenals have changed. They now grant a shield that absorbs 20% of damage, up to a large amount of damage for 15 seconds. The shield ends either when the damage threshold is reached or the duration ends. Interesting. And it also means... yeah. Cool.
It's a nice, that's a much nicer mechanic.
Yep.
It'll definitely give you something more to play with that will let you know exactly what you're in for when you pop that. It's not going to change based on your current gear and stuff like that.
Exactly. And can be used by anyone, not just tanks, presumably.
Fair enough.
Alright, now there have been a bunch of changes to crew skill missions, which I'm actually going to go through next week. Because they're kind of complicated, and I'm still not sure I actually get what the point of them is, or what they're actually doing. The overall gist of it is they're streamlining it. Anyway, we'll cover that in next week's show, as we will the posts about the details in the Eternal Championship. We'll go over that next week as well, because Charles Boyd is going to be talking about the Eternal Championship in tomorrow's BioWare live stream, and so we'll cover what he says about the story and the final details about it. Remember, there's no hurry, because the Eternal Championship isn't coming until Chapter 11 in March, so it's
Very
not
good.
exactly current. Though I did want to mention that Eric posted on Reddit that to access the Eternal Championship, you need to have unlocked Chapter 9 and basically your Alliance stuff. You do not need an active subscription, he said, at the time. So if you've unsubbed once Game Author 4.2 rocks around in March, you will be able to access the Eternal Championship without subscribing. So it's not subscriber only. Just by the by.
Okay.
Alright, that brings us to our community news. Thanks to our latest Utini patrons, we've got 3 new guys joining us. Thank you. Sean B, John L, and Scott S. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Now, just wanted to mention the rewards for our Utini patrons. The $1 tier, which means that you give us $1 for every show we produce. They get access to our show notes. Pretty much as soon as I finish this week's show, I start putting together show notes for next week, and everyone gets a link and you can comment on that if you're a patron. And for our $2 patrons, they get the same, plus the MP3 as soon as I finished editing it, which is usually up to 24 hours before. So $1 and $2 rewards, if you're interested in that kind of thing. But anyway, that helps us out.
Yep.
And is
And
much
access
appreciated.
to the documentary.
Oh, of course. And our Utini documentary, episode 0, which is a video that Ari put together with Chill and myself. Yes, if you want to hear about the origin story, just any amount basically, and you will get access to that.
Right.
Also mentioned Pew 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 Empire in the chat last week. Mentioned I was wearing my Utini Raid shirt, and I should give it a plug. I'm wearing my Utini Night shirt this week. You can actually buy one for yourself. I'll link to it in the show notes. It's the store link on OotiniCast.com. We sell it through Redbubble, I think it is, and we get a little bit, but it's mainly just to make the shirts available if anyone's interested. And finally, I did want to mention that DJ Red, our guildmate, he is doing his events in February, Utini events. This is associated with Utini Nights. He has done a forum post with all of the details, and would like to thank Ivalon, regular guest on the show, who's donated and effectively doubled all of the prizes. These will kick off on February 1st, on February 6th, and with the Utini Hunt. But again, I'll link to his post, and you can always find it utinicast.com/Utini events. We'll take you right there. So thank you, DJ Red, and thank you, Ivalon, for sweetening the pot, as it were. One more thing in community. I wanted to mention Lauren on Twitter. She's at _blushingfox. She's an artist, just getting started, and she did some drawings of Ari's characters, and including her main, which is her sage, Ari. And it's fantastic. I'll link it in the show notes. She has her art on DeviantVox. She did a video where she actually showed the actual construction of it. It's about 10-minute video, but that was sped up, so it took a lot longer than that. Drawing is hard, apparently. So, but yeah, the result is amazing. And I suspect she may be accepting commissions. So, if you're interested in getting a character drawn in this particular style,
That's
why
very
not,
cool. I
ask
saw,
her?
I saw Ari put, change her face on Twitter and all that stuff, and and on Facebook. I had no idea it was that specific to her character, though. I missed that part. That's awesome.
Yeah,
That is so
beautiful
cool.
work.
Yeah.
All right, and that's the news. But I'm going to introduce our new segment only this week. Usually Chill will do this. We're calling it The Academy. It's a segment where we're going to introduce, it'll probably be most weeks, where we have some advice or answer a question for new and returning players to Star Wars The Old Republic. So we know a lot of people are discovering the game, and we've had people asking for some newbie advice. So we're going to be covering something different every week. Now, Swodarista has volunteered to actually answer this one. So the question we're putting to her: I'm a new player who's got a character to level 65. I'm done with the story for now, and I'm doing the Alliance grind. But what else is there to do? What do I do now?
Alright, if you have just gotten into the game or you've used the level 60 token you've gotten for subscribing, there are 4 things you can do after you've finished the storyline. There's PvE, PvP, leveling, and collecting. PvE is anything you do against the computer, not actually against another player. And the 2 main things you can do once you've hit level 65 is flashpoints and operations. Flashpoints are things that you can do with a group of 4 people, and they can be very easy or they can be very hard. If you want to start getting into those, you want to make sure basically you have at least a piece of gear in every slot, and you can jump into them. There is a little icon near your map that looks like 3 little people, and once you click on it, you can queue up for flashpoints. You'll get in there with 3 other people, and the main thing you need to do is just follow everybody else and watch chat and make sure to pew pew things. Operations are a lot harder, and they're also more difficult to get into. They are 8-man groups that you work with 7 other people, and you each have a very set role to do. You're do damage, or you're a tank, or you're a healer. These ones you can queue up with the group finder, just like flashpoints, but the more common way to get into them is to watch chat, usually on the fleet, and look for groups that are looking for more people to join in. And these ones you really, really need to pay attention and make sure it's known that you're new, because often people will explain what's going on. There's a lot of things you need to watch out for. Such and such will happen during this part of the fight, and you need to get out of the way. Don't be too intimidated to join these. There will be some people who are really rude and not willing to help. At the same time, there's going to be people who are really willing to help. And one of the best ways you can get into operations, if they sound cool to you, the big 8-man content in the game, is look for a good guild on your server that's taking in newbies. Apart from content that is player versus the environment, there's also PvP, which is player versus player. It's a game of war where you're actually fighting other people in the game. And to hop into that is pretty easy. Once again, near your map, look for the Warzone symbol and open up, and you'll be queued up. And the only thing you really need to know is that other than killing other people, there is mechanics that you pay attention to in the matches. Some of them are you guard the door, some of them you have to capture the node. If this is your very first time PvPing, just type in chat. It's your first time. Is there any tips for this Warzone or anything I need to watch out for? Leveling is something else you can do if this is your first character. There is 8 distinct classes in the game. There's 4 on Republic side, 4 on Imperial side, and the initial leveling content in the game is very, very unique to each class. So if you've played a Jedi Knight and you want to go play a smuggler, that's going to be a very, very different story, and you definitely want to see all 8 of them at some point in your life. Like later on in the story, especially in Knights of the Fallen Empire, the storyline is exactly the same, but before then, you get to see different planets if you're on the other faction, and you get to see different companions, and you get to see the whole new class storyline. The last one is the one that many players don't know about. So once you've hit 65, I definitely recommend go check out the leveling, go check out the player versus environment, go check out the PvP. But if you're not really into those things and are more shy, more quiet, rather like do things on your own by yourself, or like to fill up bars, like to collect things, like to see what secrets are in the game, collecting is what you're going to check out. So there's reputation, And you can see your reputation by opening the legacy panel up in the menu. It looks like a little shield, and you just click on it and click reputation. And there's a whole bunch of different groups you can gain reputation with by doing certain quests or certain heroics, or some of them only happen during certain parts of the year, but you get some really cool rewards if you rank up your reputation with them. There's strongholds that you can decorate, like your own personal house, and there's literally thousands of decorations in the game that you can get. Some of them are just from the GTN, and others are from the cartel market, and some are you can only get by doing certain achievements. There's pets that you can collect. There's a lot of pets that you can't get, but there's hundreds that you can. If you want to know about some of the cool ones you can actually earn in game that you don't have to buy on the GTN, just Google SWTOR secret pets and there's a guide up. And of course there's all other types of things you can collect. There's mounts, there's emotes, there's different outfits that you can gain. Just pick what you're interested in and start working towards it. You can do it by doing dailies if you need money, and just go ahead and Google that. So there's a whole bunch of things to do. After you hit 65, there's PvE, PvP, leveling, and collecting, and if you really want to get into it, there's role-playing as well. You just need to find the right people to do that with.
Very cool. Thank you, SWTORista.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, that'll bring us to the forced feedback, where we read out your tweets and emails. And chat room, if you have any questions to ask, we'll be gathering them now to answer once we're done with the feedback. And let's see, A. Brown is doing feedback on episode 227, which is the original interview with Kimmy. Just listened. Great podcast. Loved the history lesson, as I am not a historical MMO player. Kimmy mentioned talking about the state of MMOs now and them dying. I would love to hear more about that. I would love to hear about opinions on what today's players are like versus before, and so on. Thanks all. Great job. Really enjoyed it. Guess I'm really nerdy. Like the history lesson. And her statements about the vitriol and the flow of new players into the game is truth.
Indeed.
Thanks, Abram. Yep. Yeah, I have listened to it since then, pretty recently, and yeah, I agree with all that. As far as the MMOs dying, well, it does seem like MMOs sort of had their heyday, and it's a little harder for MMOs to attract and retain players at this point. It's just a question of if that's reversible or not, or where the sort of the state of gaming is going.
Or
Really makes
the
me
players.
wonder.
Go ahead.
Really makes me wonder where exactly everyone went that was playing, or if now just everyone's spread out amongst the too many MMOs that are out right now.
Exactly, that's what I'm thinking as well. Are they just diluted? Not everyone is now playing World of Warcraft. They're playing the vast array of MMOs which are out there. And so they're just spread out. So no one game is doing spectacularly well, though WoW is obviously still doing pretty solidly, but who knows?
Yeah, I saw on Twitter this week there was a graph, and it basically showed the percentage market of players who were playing mobile games and MMOs, and then it showed what they're actually predicting for 2020. And in that, the market share of people who were playing MMOs was actually increased.
Oh,
Interesting.
that's interesting. Now, Place says people get older and they started families, but there are young people, and they do play games. Quite a lot of games. I mean, they can't all be playing consoles, so at least some of them, and you can now play MMOs, of course, on consoles, such as Elder Scrolls. So, and the Elder Scrolls is doing particularly well as well, so who can tell?
All right, then. Tandem wrote, "Hey, guys. First, I'd like to thank you guys for all your work and contribution to the community. I've been listening to this and other SWTOR podcasts for a while, and it's sad and it's sad the direction that the game is going, and lately it seems all the podcasters are running low on steam. The lack of new group content and the bugs that have plagued SWTOR have pushed my decision to cancel my sub that's been running since the game launched in 2011. I guess I'm just a kid with a room full of toys and wanted too much."
As was mentioned last week, particularly nice metaphor, but yeah, I don't know if we're running out of steam exactly. We're finding new ways to focus our attention, I think, but things are different now, and we're just having to adapt.
Yeah, absolutely. And certainly other players are doing the same, or
Yep.
like Tandem, maybe stopping their subscriptions, at least for now. Perhaps they'll be back. All right, Travis wrote, "Just started the game again. There you go, right there. Just started the game again. I was a day one player, then stopped for a long time. Tried to get back in about a year and a half ago. I got busy, so I didn't, and now I want to start again. I started a Sith Inquisitor, and I want to get it going again. What episodes should I listen to that will help me, or tips that you can give me, if any? Thanks.
I pointed him to a couple of recent ones about the changes in Knights of the Fallen Empire, but in terms of basic mechanics, you're going to have to wait for future episodes where we sort of cover the state of the game now. Though really, in all honesty, it's all so easy that in terms of leveling, it's just painfully easy. The only real tip is make sure you level up your companion's affection as you go, because your companion will be extremely effective and will basically keep you out of trouble. So, yeah, in terms of getting into it, it's just easy. So you can level from 1 to 65, and it's not really much of a challenge, but there's all the fun story content.
Yeah, that's true. And I would say if you're fairly new to the game, when you do your companions at low levels, you could just put your companion on DPS and just kind of blast through things. And as soon as that starts not working very well, just go ahead and switch them to healing, or if you prefer tank, and you'll find that they become really effective again.
Yeah.
All right, Billy Sy wrote, "Here's me at Disney World at the local cantina drinking blue milk."
Oh, cool.
There
I guess
he
we're going
is.
to be seeing more and more Star Wars stuff like this rather cool cantina at Disney World and Disney properties in the future.
Disneyland's building their whole world too. It's really cool. They've practically have the park is shut down right now for construction, but they've like barricaded so much of the area where the new Star Wars land is going to be. We'll never know what's going to be there until it's actually ready to be opened.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun to see when people start putting videos up of that, of all those stuff. Yeah. All right. Stephen Sear wrote, "My son and I joined forces as two unlikely and overweight Jedi heroes." And
It's a
there's
Twitter video. I'll link to it. It's kind of cool. They're two overweight Jedi dancing.
All right. Born to Eat Bacon retweeted from George Takei, who was Sulu on Star Trek. He's collected his bounty. And then there's a Mandalorian holding the bounty paper towels.
Oh, is that what they are? Here, bounty is actually a chocolate bar. So.
Okay. You could have a totally different one made up.
Indeed. That's actually pretty much funny. That's pretty funny for a Star Wars joke.
Yes, it's not bad. Cal wrote, "Luke, did you get the card I made you? Vader, I couldn't read it. Your handwriting is awful. Luke, I had to write with my left hand."
That actually is funny.
That actually is good.
Where were you when they were having the joke contest?
Yeah. All right. Tedrah wrote, "I also have a question for open discussion that has to do with Scum and Villainy hard mode and potentially Nightmare as well. Has anyone else noticed that they apparently changed the mechanics or have broken something within the actual fight itself for the first boss?" So that's the Rancor, right? Yeah, it's the Rancor.
The one in the sandy desert.
Yep. It used to be that when you got lost in the sandstorm and used your shield, you did not have to worry about getting lost again. I don't know if it tagged you in some fashion or not, but I do not remember ever seeing the same person getting lost multiple times during the same encounter. However, since 4.0, we've noticed that almost every single time, one or two people get lost 2 or more times. Since your shield goes on cooldown, you're unable to use it again before the boss fight is over. That makes life very hard. I got lost every single time the first time I went into hard mode after 4.0 on my Merc.
Wow, that's terrible.
What
Our
I
team
remember,
had that too.
Yeah, what I remember from that, TO, is that if you vanish or use other sort of certain escape things, then you can get you can be lost a second time. I don't know if that's what's happening in this case, but I know that that was certainly a thing even, back before 4.0.
Darth Aura says that healers no longer get lost. Maybe that's just increasing the probability it's a non-healer, and so it seems that the same people are getting tagged more than once. But as he says, once your shield's on cooldown, it's not very fair.
All right. Teodoro wrote, "Also, I wanted to respond to the person last week who wrote in, calling those of us who are saying there's nothing to do in the game as just petulant children with a lot of toys who don't want to play with them. Yes, there is a lot to do in SWTOR. There's a lot of solo content, achievement hunting, datacron hunting, 8 class stories, Hut Cartel, SOR, and Kotfi, as well as PvP and flashpoints and operations. However, when you've been playing since launch, or even just the past 3 to 4 years, being told to just go do something else if you don't like the raid content is not sufficient. Furthermore, I do not have to pay a subscription to do all of that solo content, with the exception of that if I want access to the new story stuff, I do have to subscribe at some point for at least 30 days to get access. I've got Datacron Master, I've gotten a lot of the achievements that I want, I've played all 8 classes, some of them multiple times, and all of that can be done free or preferred. Shadow of Revan and Kotfi have limited replayability. There are only so many variations that you can make on the choices. It is nice that they bumped all the operations up, and I still enjoy doing them. But the point for me was never that the operations weren't max level, it's that after you spend months and months or even years doing the same content over and over, they get old and stale. Bumping the level, the health, and the damage while making no real changes to the mechanics doesn't fix the problem that they are 1 to 4 years old, and aside from the changes in gear requirements, there is nothing new and challenging to learn about them. Once a raid team gets to the full 224 optimized gear, what is the point of continuing to raid if there's nothing new and no hint of a timeline of when to expect something new? What is there at that point to keep the raiding community interested in SWTOR? I do not play a subscription to play a solo game. If that's how other people want to spend their time and their money, that's great for them. That will only take the game so far, and without new endgame group content and the new PvP map is a good start, then more and more people will leave the game. My current guild went from running 3 to 4 8-man raid teams and a 16-man progression raid team down to barely having 1 active raid team because no one is interested in playing when it's the same old stale content and they are moving on to other games. I went from raiding 4 to 5 nights a week down to playing the game on the weekends because I'm bored with the lack of content, and there are a lot of people out there that feel the same way. I've already cleared every single operation in every mode. What's the point of doing it all over again if there isn't anything more to get from it, especially when it's almost pointless to do Nightmare if you've already gotten the mounts and achievements prior to 4.0, since you don't get the higher tier raid gear from doing the operation in Nightmare, although
Until
that's
4.2.
changing.
Yep.
Yes. I would also say it's a little deceptive to say that the metrics show that people prefer story over group content, because in my opinion, they manipulated the data by offering 12 times XP for such a long period, and that's why people who might otherwise have spent more time in endgame group content were spending so much time doing story. If they were to offer a similar significant bonus for a period of time for people who are clearing hard mode or nightmare mode operations, I think they would also see a jump in the number of people doing those things. It sounds like the same argument that people make about Galactic Starfighter. You know, if you don't pay it, you know, if there's no changes to GSF for a long time, people leave it. Therefore, there's no reason to change it. But it has just become a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Once you maxed out, what do? There's no incentive to play unless you enjoy it, and that is a reason in itself. But
right. I know I went off on a bit of a rant, but it feels good to get it off my chest. Hopefully one of these days the excitement that brought me into and kept me in SWTOR for so long can be rekindled. Until then, I am resigned to be a raid logger for the foreseeable future. And yeah, so basically, I mean, that is essentially, you know, BioWare's strategy right now. As you know, they're sort of they're pushing off end-game content, and they're, you know, making it more attractive for new players. That's essentially why they did as Kimmy called it, you know, the relaunch essentially of SWTOR. I mean, that's not for us, you know, people who've been doing operations since month 1. That's for getting new people in the game.
Yeah, I'm one of the petulant children that was mentioned last episode, just like Tidra, and I agree with something he or she said, and they said, I do not pay a subscription to just play a solo game, and that's where I sit. That's the biggest fun of this game for me, is doing it with other people. My guild is full of really enjoyable people that I like to play with every day. If it's a solo game, I would have really so much less interest, and ops are the most social thing I feel you can do that isn't just like purely being social, like just working together as a team to discover and also to overcome really difficult challenges in the game. That's just so much fun to do as a group. I can't think of anything as fun in the game that I could do solo.
Well, that segues quite nicely into our discussion.
Yes, that'll bring us to the Sarlacc Digest, where we go over the issues for 1,000 years, or until we run out of time. And the topic is, in fact, does raiding have a future in any MMO?
I just like
Tio?
to note at this point, I never actually claimed this would be a short show. So I'm not sure how long this will go for, but we'll see. Alright, so there was a post on the forums by an individual who's a bit of a troll, really, when it comes down to it. So take that with a grain of salt. But his post was, BioWare, you have it right. Don't listen to the raiders. Raiding has been in decline for years. The obvious reality is that participation in ops in this game does not justify the cost, so by focusing on story chapters and more inclusive, smaller scale PvE, there is much greater potential than trying and failing to get people to play operations. If raiding participation does not increase as a result of 4.0, where all raids were made more accessible, then just write it off and focus on content that people do want to participate in. Let the metrics guide you, don't listen to an overrepresentative vocal minority anymore. That's what got you guys into the revenue decline mess in the first place, listening to raiders over the much larger group of people who wanted story content. Please don't relapse into what you did in Rise of the Hutt Cartel and Shadow of Revan. So yeah, that was kind of inflammatory, as you can imagine, but you do wonder, is there a point here? Now someone asked him, well, give us some proof that raiding is really in decline. And he did link a bunch of stuff. There were some opinion pieces. Some guy, Elliot, from Now at Massively Overpowered, and he had his 6 reasons why raiding is in decline and should be allowed to die, which in summary is it's too expensive in terms of resources. It's designed for a tiny portion of the people playing the games. It's too expensive in terms of what it takes from other content, because you're spending your time making your operations or raids. It relies on bribery as a content draw, that is gearing up. For example, in our case, it's the only place to get your, what do you call it? Blinking. Yeah, your tier sets.
Right.
Yeah. Raiding pigeonholes social interactions, which is kind of a way of saying you're only getting together because you're going to do progression, and that's sort of hardcore. And raiding is only there because it's assumed to be a necessity, because all MMOs have had it, therefore we must have it, kind of thing. And that's sort of true, kind of, but again, it's sort of taking kind of simplistic view of all this, in my opinion. There was also an analysis of people raiding in World of Warcraft, and how they were focused on the more hard progression into things, and that was clearly in decline. The number that's bandied around the most is about 10% of players of the game actually do operations or raids, generally. This seems to be fairly constant across the various games. Though what WoW did, they introduced their flexible looking for raid system, which made it much easier, because you can just queue up for it like you can in Group Finder, and get into these raids, which are, I got to admit, my time with LFR was terrible, because it's just kind of boring. It's just a whole lot of people in a mass, most of them bad, not really knowing what they're doing. It was just awful. But people were certainly quite happy to do that, it seems, far more than were happy to get into organised groups and work on that. And then there was, of course, Lotro, and their community manager at the time mentioned that PvPers, and PvP in Lotro was never anything that exciting. It's you actually play as monsters versus players in a particular area, and he reckoned that 10% of players included both the PvPers and the people who did raids. But then in Lotro, their raids were kind of bad, to be honest. Okay. I mean, we think people complain about raids in SWTOR. SWTOR is heads and shoulder above what is in Lotro, and they basically stopped doing raiding because it affected so few people. Though they are now sort of leaning back into creating group content again because people wanted it. And so, I guess in summary, one could say, yes, the people doing raids or operations are a small proportion of the player base. And yet, in Star Wars: The Old Republic, we've got the story modes versions of the raids, which are specifically aimed at allowing anyone to kind of jump into it. And they are reasonably easy, for the most part. And so, I suspect more than 10% of people actually would do it, but I don't know, because they don't publish these numbers. And as long as, and as Swadarista was saying earlier, it's group content, and the sort of, and it is, as we know from our own experience, fun group content. You get a
It's
group of people
fun!
together.
I don't log in just to raid. I log in because raiding is fun with other people. I'm not pigeonholed. We have done
Exactly.
commanders as a group. We have done roleplay as a group. We have done PvP as a group. Just raiding is just the one I like the best and is most suited to doing with a group because it was specifically made to do with a group.
So, Arissa, you got some more thoughts on this?
No, I need a break. I think, like, the story modes, I wish we knew more about the numbers, because without them, we're just shooting in the dark, and sometimes when they're talking, we think they're just talking out their butts and just lying to us, but we don't know. We know specifically that a community manager was hired, that we have almost never heard from since he was hired, and he was a specialist at looking at the data and looking at the numbers. So we can only assume that what they're looking at is true, and they're making decisions based on the numbers. They're not just saying, oh, Bob down in accounting said that we shouldn't make raids anymore. And so I can understand that a lot of people probably don't get into story modes to start with. They're really fun, and people should do them, but how do you get into them? You press a random little button that has 3 little people on the side, and you could get in there and you're missing all of your left-hand side gear, and somebody kicks you out because you don't know where the chat is because you're a brand new player.
You got some thoughts, Blay?
Yeah, as you can tell from my update every single week in terms of what I actually do, I'm quite a strong sort of advocate for having raids in these MMOs. It's an MMO. It's designed for lots of people. So what's the point in having a game that's got lots of people that you can interact with if you then don't want to actually do anything with them? If I wanted to just play on my own, I would just have a single player game. For me, raids, they should cater for all classes of players, and I read the full sort of script in terms of it's saying it's divisive. You end up having groups where people end up kicking you out because I'd rather play with this player rather than that player because this player is really good and that player is really bad. And to a certain extent, I can see that. I've probably experienced it myself within raiding. But then, at the same time, I don't turn up at a professional sports club and say, I want to play for Bayern Munich, because I know I can't play soccer. Yep, so, there are going to be levels within the game which I can't do, and I'm just not good enough. But I don't begrudge teams then who are actually good enough to do it, that they don't want to play with me, because I'm realistic to know that there is all this content which I can do. I can do hard modes, I can do story modes. I love, even though I'm geared and talented enough to do some of the hard modes, not all of them. There's certain hard modes that even I struggle with. But I just love grouping up with people and just introducing them and talking to them and just doing content as a group. It is fun. That is what it's there for. I just don't understand why people would actually say, all right, let's scrap all this. Let's not have anything where we can actually group up with each other. It doesn't make sense to me in an MMO.
It makes me wonder if they see all the old operations and they're looking at their list of operations and how many is there? There's so many, enough to make an actual list, and they say, oh, they can do all of those. There's tons to do together.
For new players, yeah. I mean, it's perfect, but for all of us, as you were saying, they are a little stale at this point. If there was a way that, I suppose a real trick, and I know World of Warcraft have been trying to do this, WotWar is as well with their story mode, a way to encourage people to get into operations and that able to scale the difficulty rather than your simple story and hard and occasionally nightmare.
The only thing that makes it more fun for me for difficulty content is the actual new mechanics themselves. Like, if you're doing Revan and the last fight of Temple of Sacrifice, this is the first time I've done hard mode, was a couple weeks ago, and Revan literally picks you up and throws you over your shoulder if you're the first person to attack him, and just seeing that is so fun, so exciting. It's, I don't know, just ramping up, making the numbers bigger would be the only way to make it easily done. for difficulty, but mechanics are what makes the real difference between story mode and hard mode. It's what makes it fun and exciting and actually difficult versus just getting more gear.
Chill, what do you think?
Yeah, I certainly hope that, that we are in fact going to be getting more operations, rather than just keeping the ones we have. I know way back in the day when I was doing World of Warcraft, and because I was working nights and watching my son and so on, and I had these really weird playing hours, I knew I could never do raiding in World of Warcraft. But eventually the schedule changed and my life changed, and I actually burned myself out on WoW and finally came back to it, and that's when I met Tio, and it was nice to know that it was there. You know what I mean? It was like, okay, yeah, not every player has to be an operations player right now, but as long as it's there and it's progressing and it's interesting, it can be something that people sort of shoot for later. And it doesn't have to be, you don't have to have 100% participation in a game mode for it to be worthwhile to the game.
And speaking of shooting for later, I remember a while ago they gave some stats about pre-4.0 about how many people had actually gotten to the hardest fight in the game. I think it was Revan at the time. And although my group had never gotten to it and never beaten it, just the fact that we were looking forward to eventually doing it was a lot of motivation for us to play the older content that we had been doing over and over and over.
Yes.
Yeah. Place had a good post on the forums about this in response to that original thread I mentioned, and it boils down to repeatable content is what sustains your player base. So story is great, etc., but you burn through it and then you're done, and then what? And the then what is repeatable content.
You start collecting pets.
But having stuff to do like the Eternal Championship, I mean, it seems reasonably straightforward. We'll talk more about it next week, but that's actually cool because you can do it again and again and again every week. Maybe it'll get old, maybe it won't. And obviously the heroics, whatever else, it's repeatable stuff, and the more repeatable stuff you have, the better. And having new repeatable stuff to do periodically is even better. So you can't just rely on stories and having a chapter per month as a way of keeping subscribed. It's not enough. You need more things. And that's why operations and flashpoints, let's not forget flashpoints, any kind of group content, doesn't matter, is ideal. Repeatable, ideally, either solo or group, but group as well, because playing with other people is kind of fun. And then, as Blaise said, being alone together is all very nice, but we're in a shared world, and it's okay to interact with other people and do stuff together. And there is nothing as satisfying as taking down a raid boss with your group. It is so satisfying if you beat your head against it and then you finally do it. It's a great feeling.
That's right. Yep, especially if it's one where you've spent a week or two not getting him down.
A week or two, try a couple months.
Yeah.
The most satisfying thing in raids is getting someone to jump into our Sarlacc pit.
So one of the things that was brought up at the beginning of the discussion was, are raids dying? It was for all MMOs, but I know for SATOR, like I said earlier, we don't have the numbers. We can't say anything definitive, but I know on the Evan Hawk server, it is very easy to get into a raid, especially during like prime time. I don't know about 3 a.m. in the morning, but if you are looking to get into a raid, I always see people looking for one more DPS to do whatever the story mode of the day is, looking for one more to do whatever the hard mode of the week is. There is no shortage of people looking to do it and people actually getting to do it. Like for the dead servers, it's probably a lot harder, but there's not less people doing it now, it seems, than a year ago. Maybe, I'd say for sure, in terms of like guilds progressing together, there's probably a lot less, but in terms of just general population, it's not dead, that's for sure.
Yeah. And we retain hope. I know some people think they'll never come back, but I really do think that there will be new operations. We may have to wait towards the latter half of this year, but they will come, in my opinion.
I'd love to know more about what makes operations so expensive to make, and like how they sit compared to making other content like reputation events or like story content, because we say, oh, I wish they had stopped making story content and instead made ops. But for all we know, doing the story content costs half the time and half the people. Or story content could cost double the people and double the time. I just want all the things, but apparently that's not something that can easily be done on their budget.
Well, there's also the value you get out of it, because your story content will cost X to do, and then maybe doing an operation would cost 5 times X or 10 times X. But you get 10 times more use out of it, whereas the
Not
story
just
content...
use. Some things attract people and some things don't. Story attracts people. We know this. How many people came when Coffee came out, Knights of the Fallen Empire? How many people will hear about operations? I don't know. I don't know how many people will care, especially casual players.
Yeah. Well, it's the same for PvP. Not everyone PvPs. So are they going to care about the new map? And yet they're doing a new map. Galactic Starfighter, maybe they'll go back to that, but that one I have hope on.
I almost wish they had never made it, because they when they were talking about it, they said how much time they invested in it. They had a whole team on it, and they spent a bunch of money marketing it, and they could have just... I'm happy those who enjoyed it got to enjoy it, but oh my goodness.
Well, there still are people enjoying it.
Are there lots of people enjoying it?
I wouldn't say there are lots.
I guess it's become very niche. Yeah, yeah. Force Chuckle wrote in and said, they're still playing, so people are still playing.
Please enjoy the hell out of it before they delete it, because they say it's taking too much server or something.
All right, any final words, or shall we wrap up, because we're running long? All right. So thank you for the discussion, guys. Obviously, we don't know what the conclusion is. I don't think you should get rid of operations, because enough of us like it that they're worth doing. But it really comes down to our business decision, and let's hope they make the right one.
All right, that's a show.
Nothing.
Sorry, go ahead.
10% is not nothing.
It's so true.
All right, that's a show. If you'd like to play with us in the Utini Knights Guild on the Republic side of the Harbinger server, or in our Guild on the Empire side, do a /c join Utini to join the Utini channel. Then let us know you're a fan of the show. You can email questions and comments about the show to OotiniCast@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter using @OotiniCast. You can find contact details for all of us on our website, OotiniCast.com, which includes how to subscribe to us using iTunes, Stitcher, and the rest. We record the show live every Wednesday at 4:30 p.m. Pacific. Go to OotiniCast.com/live to find out how to join in. Our theme song is from Mevio's Music Alley. Check it out at music.mevio.com. That's MEVIO. And thank you to the chat room, and thank you to Swoterista and Blay.
Cheers, guys.
Yay! Oh my goodness, I have not ranted so badly ever. Stop it!
Sure, give us... we'll see you next week.
And we'll see you next week.
All right. Guys, keep recording. That was good, though, Swoterista. That was excellent. Rants are good. All right. Thank you, everyone. We will be back next week. We are working on an interview with BioWare. We'll tell you more once we actually get more. It's kind of hard to arrange, but because they're busy. But we'll have something soon. Yeah, and other things, of course. Thank you all, and we'll talk to you next week. Stopping the broadcast.